and selecting the same kinds of leaders with the same kinds of experiences and expect Liberia to change. We have to do many things differently, and that starts with selecting and electing new leaders who know how to create jobs, who know how to grow the economy, who will prioritize the Liberian people first before they prioritize themselves. And this is what I offer you, the Liberian people. The other universal truth that I want to share with you, my fellow Liberians, is the best predictor of future performance and future behavior is past performance and past behavior. And again, I ask you to look at my record of job creation, of success, of managing large budgets, or one penny going missing. All of these things you can look at and compare to the other candidates. And again, you will see that my past performance and past behavior is a good predictor, a good indicator that what I commit to, we will deliver. There are 5 priorities we have, and we call that the what's. And then there are 5 things we call the how we'll do it. And those priorities are as follows. Our first priority is infrastructure. Simply put, it's electricity, it's roads, it's water, and it's internet and cell phone connectivity across Liberia. We have to invest in infrastructure. That is the top priority. That's the basis on which we can and will do everything else. The second priority for us is job creation. There are too many unemployed, underemployed, and unemployable Liberians. The unemployment rate is over 85%. And therefore, job creation is our next priority, creating jobs for the Liberian people. Our next priority is agriculture. We are a country that do not fear ourselves. These are things we can do for ourselves. We should be producing rice to feed ourselves. And my commitment is that by the end of my first term in office, we will be self-sufficient in rice production. And within education, we're focused on vocational training, teachers training, and adult education. But we have to educate our young people because, again, that's how we can help them create jobs. That's how we can train farmers. And so these things are all linked together. And our final priority in terms of the what's is health. Because you can have good infrastructure, you can have a good job, you can feed yourself, you can have great education, but if you don't have your health, it doesn't matter. And so health is our 5th priority, and there we're focused on primary health care and preventive health care. So those are the what's we'll do for our people, for the Liberian people. How are we going to do these things? The first how is we want to engage Liberians differently in the transformation of our country. We call this hearts and minds. How do we get all Liberians to participate in the changes that are required? We're going to use arts and music and culture and reconciliation and religion. All of these things, we will be deliberate in using these things to engage us as a people in this transformation process. And so we're doing some work on how we can make those things happen. The next how is that we're going to find the money. We have to find the resources, the money, to do all of the what's I mentioned earlier. And the way we'll find the money is first, we'll go after waste in government. You know, we spend a lot of money on things that we don't need, or we pay too much for things that we do need. So for example, I believe the vehicles we buy for our government officials, we spend too much money on that. We should reduce the number of vehicles, and we should buy less expensive vehicles for our government officials. We need to reduce how much they make so we can pay teachers and civil servants and police officers and the military officers and healthcare workers, people who actually do the work. We need to pay them more money. and reduce the gap between those at the top and those who actually do the work. The other way we'll find the money is going after this thing called corruption. You know, corruption has been the bane of our country. Is the primary reason why we are as underdeveloped as we are today. And we will aggressively go after corruption. The first thing we'll do is we will appoint a corruption czar, a minister in charge of corruption in the presidency that will coordinate all of the agencies that are meant to find corrupt officials. Secondly thing we'll do is we'll make sure we are giving the resources, the money, the right people, the right logistics to the anti-corruption agencies, the LACC, Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, the General Accounting Office, the Public Procurement and Concessions Commission. We will make sure they got the right resources to go after corrupt officials. After that, when we find people who are corrupt, we will prosecute them, we will put them in jail, and we'll seize their assets. It will not be good enough for you just to resign. So those are the things we will do to really go after corruption. I have committed that I will not take a salary. The salary that is paid the president, I will allocate it towards helping to fight corruption. That's how important I think it is to us. And then the other way we'll find the money is we'll make sure we're getting full value, the full monies we're due from our natural resources. We'll look to exploit other natural resources so we can get the funds required to fund healthcare, to fund infrastructure, to create jobs, etc., etc. So finding the money is the second how. The next how is we want to create a government of inclusion. We want all sections of our country to be represented in the government. We want opposition political parties to be in government. Because we believe that having a government inclusion will help all of us make the right decisions. It will make sure that we're spreading the resources of our country across the entire country. And then the last two hows, one is growing the private sector. We will focus on growing the private sector so Liberians can primarily benefit from that growth. No longer should Liberian business people be spectators to our economy. And we want to actively support Liberianization and encourage and provide credit and other facilities to Liberian businesses so they can participate. And last but not least, we will use technology. We'll leverage technology to help us achieve our goals. So those are the what's and the how's. But let me end by leaving you again with these two universal truths. One is we cannot keep doing the same things, my people, and expect different results. We cannot keep electing the same people with the same experiences and expect Liberia to change. We need to elect and select different people to lead us, to serve us, to help us manage and run our country. And the other universal truth is the best predictor of future performance and future behavior is past performance and past behavior. And on those two counts, I believe I stand head and shoulders above the other candidates expiring. Together, we will change Liberia for the benefit of all Liberians. We will transform our country. We will give us a new start, a fresh start, so that all of us can benefit from this country we love. I thank you. God bless you. God bless the Republic of Liberia. Yeah, it's on Saturday. I always like to start by saying I've been around a long time. Right. And I'm actively engaged in pursuing the presidency of the Republic of Liberia. I believe that my background, my experiences, my love for and commitment to Liberia compels me to make my case to Liberian people to lead them. And so I've been encouraged by all of the conversations I've had, the meetings and groups I've met. And of course, you take a little bit with a grain of salt. We're in politics, and I understand that. But I say on balance, very encouraged by all the different constituencies I've met. Of course, the work is just beginning. I have a lot more to do, a lot more travel. I want to get to all 73 districts. So the work is still ahead, but I'm encouraged by where we are today. I think we've got about 17 months. We made a start already. I think my critics might be surprised as to even the kind of organization we've already built in quite a few counties. And so the work is not just beginning. The work has begun. And, I often say to people, my wife, that sleep is overrated. We will work, there are 3 working days in every 24 hours. And so we'll take advantage of the time we have, and we're going to run very hard. But it's not just about the meetings and the conversations and the rallies, etc. It's about doing small development projects around Liberia, which I think will also propel the name. In addition to having meetings, as you know, we've been investing over the years in water projects in Liberia, in education in Liberia. We've personally given scholarships to Liberians both here and in the United States. We've helped individual Liberians with health challenges. So we've been quietly involved in supporting Liberia and Liberians, and we'll do more. Rodney, no matter what the outcome is of this quest, if you will, the philanthropic efforts will continue. We've opened and established the Cummings Africa Foundation, small foundation, small staff. We're doing projects already, but that foundation will endure no matter what happens, and that work will continue. Well, I think that's perhaps a narrow view. And the way I think about it is there are other ways to help Liberia and Liberians, but the presidency is the most impactful way to do that. And I want to impact all 4.5 million Liberians. I could go the philanthropic route, and as I said, I will pursue that no matter what. Right. But that philanthropic route, I might get to a few thousand, even a few 100,000 Liberians. Right. But there are 4.5 million Liberians that I believe we can impact their lives. And so my goal, my objective is to offer myself, make my case as to why, given me the reins of the country, I can change the lives of 4.5 million Liberians as opposed to perhaps a few 100,000. We are in discussions with other political parties as we speak, including some of the leaders, because I agree. It will take some coalition of individuals and parties to win the election. Even more important though, Rodney, I think it will take a coalition of parties and individuals to actually lead the country. One of my commitments to the Liberian people is that I will build an inclusive government, a government that reflects all Liberians, all people from all geographic, ethnic, religious groups. Because I think the changes required to move our country ahead requires that we have as many people in the tent as possible. As you know, inclusion is a very powerful motivator. And to help all the constituents understand the choices we'll need to make, the sacrifices, etc., we will need to have as many people in the tent as possible. So not only to win the election, but to govern the country, I believe we need an inclusive government. And so that process begins now. And as I mentioned, we're in preliminary discussions with a variety of political parties and individuals to come together to not only win, but to lead the country.
What recipe do you have for reconciliation if you become president?
I believe that one, having a truly inclusive government is one way we'll start the reconciliation process. I think two, we have to look back and understand why we have perhaps the rift and the challenges we have. We need to celebrate each other. We need to look at our national symbols. I believe there's a commission or some work happening there, but we need to revisit that and make sure our national symbols reflect all of Liberia. And so understanding and accepting the fact that we need to reconcile ourselves, it's like an alcoholic. If you don't admit you have a problem, you don't begin to solve the problem.
Right.
So we have a problem. Let's come together as Liberians, as I mentioned, inclusive government, national symbols, conversations. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission had a list of things,
right.
Recommendations. I want to focus on those parts of the recommendation that was all about reconciliation and about moving forward. And I'm committed to actually do it. I think our Constitution says innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
And I think we should let the Liberian court systems handle any issues with regards to bad behavior in the past. I want to focus on reconciling the Liberian people. I want to focus on the future. And I think that's more important. But I think we should let the judiciary system take care of any quote-unquote punishment if there is to be. And again, our Constitution, innocent until proven guilty, and we should let the court systems handle that. I often say to people that large corporations are similar, not exactly the same as governments. They're similar in the sense that you have to manage large, complex organizations, large budgets. And I remind the Liberian people that the operating budget I managed prior to retiring is actually quite a bit bigger than the budget of the Republic of Liberia. You manage all the challenges with people, right? Once you have people involved, there's a bit of politics, a question of degree. And so there are a lot of similarities, I believe, and my experiences, having done it very successfully, will lend itself to managing and leading the Liberian economy and the Liberian people. The way to think about this is that first I've said we have to grow the revenues of the country. To do anything, right? We know all the challenges, infrastructure, health, education, et cetera, et cetera. It begins with having the funds to do it. And so as we speak, we have commissioned a small team of Liberians to begin to look at how we can grow the revenue base from 650 million to $1 billion, $2 billion, et cetera, et cetera. And by doing that, we'll create the flexibility to address the issues. So that's one thing. The second focus area of mine is, in the immediate future, is trying to find ways to create jobs. And the way we do that is by providing skills to our young people, which is a nice segue into my priorities for education. It's early childhood education, it's vocational training, because again, it leads to job. We're in the process, my wife and I are building a place. And we've been challenged to find Liberians with carpentry skills, electrical skills, plumbing skills, etc. And I think one way to resurrect the economy is to provide those skills. And as you invest in infrastructure, housing, those things, you will create job. And as I mentioned, you got to grow the revenue base to do all of those things. So all of those things, as you know, are interrelated. I also offer the fact that we all know what needs to be done. It's all about the house. And again, if you look at my track record, my history, I've had success at every level in business, and I think I can bring the same thing to bear in Liberia and focus on how we go from where we are to our aspirations. And again, we've got teams working on all the different sectors so that if we're successful, when we're successful, we'll know on day one what we need to do to begin to resurrect the Liberian economy.
Is agriculture one of the things your team is working at?
It is.
Because agriculture, as you know, is doing pretty well in terms of agriculture, because if you have other resources falling in the stock market and stuff, you need something to back up, and agriculture is one of the things that people are looking at. How do you hope that can help?
Absolutely. So agriculture is a primary focus, right? And we gotta be able to feed ourselves. As you know, we import, apparently the numbers, I'm sure I'll be directionally correct. Right. The numbers are in something like the $200 million range of imports of food stuff. We have to change that dynamic. It will not happen overnight, but it's going to be a focus area. And by the way, there are Liberians who know the solutions. I met with a group of Liberians actually earlier this week who have a blueprint for how we can scale up our agricultural sector. It's all about the will to do it. It's all about the focus of doing it. So the solutions exist. And I've asked them to share with me the work they've done. They've explained it. But the point is it's going to be a focus area. It creates jobs. You feed yourself. We reduce our dependence on imports. It'll help the economy because from a foreign exchange perspective, we're not, all our foreign exchange earnings are not going out to import rice. So agriculture has to be a priority. We're less dependent on commodities, iron ore, rubber, and the vagaries of what happened in the world. So for all kinds of reasons, I have a lot of passion for agriculture and making sure as a government, we're focused on that. We need to think about resurrecting the agricultural bank. Financing is a big barrier, right? I know the Ministry of Agriculture today has a fairly large extension program. We need to augment that, supplement that, so that we're providing skills to the farmers. Farmers need a ready market for their products. So we used to have the Liberian Produce Marketing Corporation. We need to revisit that and restructure that, and so that when people grow their products, they know there's a market, there's a buyer for those products. So all of those things, but the blueprints exist. Some of those things we did in the past, some things we have to adjust to today's realities, but the fact that the blueprint exists, and it will be a focus of ours.
Let's look at the issue.
It will not change overnight. We need some symbolic actions like punishing big people or friends of Alex if they are corrupt. But we also need to admit as a people that we all have a role to play in corruption, and we have to be systematic about it. We have to simplify processes. An example I gave, I don't know how practical this is, by the way, Rodney, but it's just illustrative, and I want your readers and viewers to take this in this sense. We, as I mentioned, we're building a place, and everybody in Liberia, you have to import a lot of materials. And we tried to clear stuff through the ports ourselves to just experience it, and it was a nightmare. And the thought came to mind, again, don't know how practical it is, but it's just illustrative. What if we said for every container that comes through the port is $1,000, no matter what is in there, right? That's a simpler process to monitor. So if you get 10,000 times $1,000, whatever the math is, $1 million. You can monitor it. It's simple. There's less discretion on schedules. And then over time, as we get more sophisticated, as we get technologies, you can get more sophisticated in that. But that's an example where you can simplify things and minimize the opportunities for people to be corrupt. And those are the kinds of things we need to do. So my point is we got to be very systemic about it. We got to think about it holistically. And then we got to have consequences for people who are corrupt. If Alex Cummings gets a contract to build a road, to build a bridge, and if he doesn't do it, or he does it halfway, there has to be some consequences for that, because that's a form of corruption. So again, I have a lot of passion for this. I think we can solve this issue. I don't believe it will happen overnight because it's so endemic, but we can progressively solve the corruption problem. And anybody who is associated with Alex Cummings or Cummings-led government has to understand that there will be consequences for corruption. There will be consequences. You know, there are rogues everywhere in the world. At Coca-Cola, we have a code of business conduct, like we do here. The difference is we enforce it, and we enforce it for everybody. So bad behavior is not unique to us. It's all about consequences and enforcing and minimizing opportunity, and then rewarding good behavior, right? So there's consequences and rewards, and we gotta do both. I will minimize that dramatically because I know of the history. And even if your relatives are competent and do everything on the up and up, the fact that they're your relative will create noise and distraction. I think it'll be unwise for me to say there will be no relatives in government. So there will likely be a few, but even they will be held to the same standard, Rodney. We have to hold them to the same standard.
But the
And
code
they,
of conduct says, it minimizes. I'm not sure the critics would say minimize is the right word because they want to eliminate. The librarian mentality is like eliminate instead of minimize.
well, I mean,
It's
look,
possible to eliminate. I mean, everybody's connected in this country.
yeah, if you have a real distant cousin, who 3 or 4 removed, in theory, he or she is your relative, right? And if they're highly competent, do we deny them completely the opportunity to play a role to serve? So again, it's about being practical about these things. Siblings, clear, right? First cousins, very clear. Maybe even second cousins, I don't know. But the further you get removed, right, it becomes a challenge. And again, I want to be practical about it. But what people should understand that no matter how close or distant the relationship is, the individual has to be held to the same standard. It can't be that, I know your mother and your mother knew my father, and that just can't be. People shouldn't line up outside the door and say, you can't fire Rodney C or you can't fire Alex Cummings. Because if Rodney or Alex or whomever breaks the laws of our country, we need to enforce the punishment. People often ask me, what can we do for you? I said, the first thing you need to do pray for me, but for 2 things, for wisdom and for courage, not to win the presidency. God will decide that. And the courage part comes again to things like not just corruption, but the things like corruption. That if you have to fire a close friend, sometimes close friends are even closer than relatives, right? So we talk about the blood relationship, but some close friends are sometimes much closer than relatives. And the courage to say, you know what, you just violated the rules of our country, we're going to fire you, that requires courage. That requires conviction. And I believe I have that, but I ask people to pray for me to make sure I keep to what I'm committing to the Liberian people.
Now, there's been a lot of controversies about your candidacy, since I'm sure you've addressed some of them already in other media. But one of the issues to talk about is your citizenship. Where are you on that? I mean, are you Liberian? Are you American? What's your status?
I'm a Liberian. I was born government hospital here on Snapper Hill, went to demonstration school, Cuttington. You know the history. Don't need to repeat that. After undergraduate school, I came and worked. I have a Liberian passport. And I often say to people, I was born a Liberian, I am a Liberian, and I'll proudly die a Liberian.
There's an issue about the residency also, that you have to be here 5 years or 4 years, whatever. Your critics are saying also that you haven't been here continuously. How often have you been in Liberia since the last 10 years?
In 2003 or 4, I've been coming to Liberia 2-3 times a year, almost every year, since the records are there. I own real property in Liberia, and I have for forever. Again, the records are there. I think it's Article 52C, the residency issue. So we understand this, we know this. We've had legal teams look at that, and we believe we'll qualify under that article to contest the presidency of Liberia.
Who do you fear the most in this race?
All of my competitors, I fear, each and every one of them. By the way, I don't view them as enemies. They are all patriotic Liberians. I assume good intent, patriotic. We're just offering the Liberian people different alternatives for the leadership of the country. And so I have respect for all of my competitors. And I'm going to be focused on winning this election against all of them or any one of them. And I don't believe I'm afraid of one versus the other. They all will compete fiercely, as I will, to win the hearts and minds of the Liberian people.
Last week, the Senate were debating this issue about reducing the number of parties to 4. It may not happen this election, but maybe next election, but in the wake of all of the noise surrounding too many parties and stuff, if you were approached to a seemingly like a dream ticket that could maybe go to someone like a Wea or Bromstein or Yuri, would you be open to a second spot?
So I think there are a couple of ways to answer that question. In terms of the number of political parties, I'll answer your question directly about being approached. But in terms of the number of political parties, look, I think we're a relatively new democracy. And people want the right to express themselves and participate. And I think over time, as our democracy matures, you will have fewer and fewer political parties. I also think that as Liberia becomes more and more prosperous and the goal will be to grow our economic pie, we can begin to think about the hurdles for forming a political party. We can increase the hurdles, and through that process, we'll have fewer and fewer parties. So I am not concerned that we have a professional parties. I think over time, the natural course of events will shrink it, will increase the standards, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's how that will evolve. The question about coalitions and working with others, I'm open to the conversations and discussions with any and all parties. What I will say though, is my interest is in running for the presidency of Liberia. I'm not doing this to get my name out there so I can run the next time. I'm going to do this with every fiber in my body, with the resources I can muster from the Liberian people to win the leadership of our country. As I mentioned earlier, it will need to happen through coalitions, through conversations. I don't want to presuppose what the shape of that may be. I think all of us going to these conversations need to be open to whatever the outcomes are. And I'm going to go into those conversations open to that. But again, I'm not doing this because I'm vying for political relevance. You know, I often say, and I don't want to say this arrogantly, I'm sincerely, but I'm not interested in the money that the job offers, because I've been blessed to have resources. I'm not interested in the trappings of the job, because I've been blessed to have experienced many, if not all of those trappings. I'm doing this because I want to serve the country of my birth. I want to serve Liberia and Liberians. You know, as a Liberian and I look around us, I passionately believe we can do better. We deserve better. And this is what I'm trying to do.
You know, Africa is a strange continent. People come aspire to be presidents, and when they get there, it's a totally different ballgame. What guarantee do Liberian people have that the things you say now, when you get there, you will do them?
I think Liberian people need to look at my track record, right? The best predictor of future performance, not the only, but the best predictor of future performance is past history. And I would stand my record up. Rodney, I was LBDI. I went to graduate school. I joined the Pillsbury Company at 36 years old in 1997. So do the math. I'm 59 now, right? Sorry, in 1993. I became the youngest officer as Vice President of Finance for Pillsbury International at Pillsbury Company. And all subsequently, my record of success is there. I joined Coca-Cola, I went to Nigeria, and I turned our business around. I went from a region manager in Nigeria in 1997 to group president for Africa in 2001 in 4 years. Has never happened that fast in our company history, my former company's history, and hasn't happened since. But it was all about accomplishments and success. We took the Africa group, we grew our revenues, we more than doubled our earnings. We created Coca-Cola Africa Foundation, the biggest philanthropic unit within Coca-Cola today. In my last role, I had responsibility for most of our global corporate functions. So the track record is there, the record of success. And I would put my record up against the alternatives, against the choices. And so again, I think that's the best predictor of future success is past performance. And my past performance has been one of success. So yes, I've been blessed in life, and I acknowledge that. But I've also worked hard, I've worked smart, I've worked with the right values and integrity. And I think that's the best predictor Liberians can look to determine whether I'll be successful or not in what I'm committing to and what I'm promising. I also would say over the next several months, as we are developing very specific plans around the house, because I think we all can agree on what needs to be done. It's all about how we go about do it. That will be additional proof to Liberian people that we've thought about these things and we know how on day one we're going to go from point A to point B.
Why did you choose the ANC as your launching pad?
Several reasons. One is I've known many of the ANC members for a very, very long time. I have a lot of respect for them, even those here and those members in the United States. I looked at the party platform, their beliefs, their vision, the simple motto of Liberia first. That alone was appealing to me because it has to be about Liberia first, Rodney. If you look at they believe in local government, that development has to be bottoms up. All of these things resonates with me. They're focused on education and developing people, having a people-centered government. All of that resonates with me. So it was about the people in the party that I believe I connected with very well. It's about the beliefs, the principles, the vision, the values of the party that I connected with very well. And I think the combination of those things and what I bring made ANC for me the logical choice to associate with.
One issue that's been out there also is like issue of your position on gay rights. There's been a lot of versions of what you said and what you may have said on the internet and social media. What is your position?
Yeah. So, a lot of my competitors, and understandably, will look for issues, and that's the race we're in. And because they can't tag me to many other things that we will tag them on, by the way. This is the game we're playing. I think they know that we're gonna come hard. When this is not a softball game, we're playing hardball here. They've seized on this issue. My position is as a Christian, firm Christian, I don't support, subscribe to that lifestyle. But I also believe we have to obey the laws of the land of Liberia. And as president, we'll follow the laws of the land of Liberia. But to be very clear, again, as a Christian, I don't subscribe to that. But our Constitution proposes non-discrimination, et cetera, and we have to uphold the Constitution. And so I'm very, very, very clear on that.
Is there anything you want to tell, like, if you have one shot to tell Liberian people why should they choose your candidacy as the next for the future of this country, what would you tell them?
I would ask Liberian people to look at the track record of the person, to think about given my track record, to think about what would motivate me, why do they think I would want to do this? Because given the blessings I've had in the past, this is clearly a choice to do this, and none of, as I mentioned, Rodney, none of the trappings or any rewards that come with a job is something that I actually need, but I truly want to serve the Liberian people. And so I asked them to look at my record. I asked them to give me the opportunity to at least be open. I will try to reach as many of the 4.5 million Liberians as I can. And I think in those interactions, in those conversations, they will see a person who's truly, truly committed to changing his country, to improving the lives of the people of Liberia. There's the head and the heart in terms of what motivates people. The head is almost everything I've said to you. The heart for me, I went to a church here in Liberia late last year, and they have a kitchen where they feed young kids. And the pastor said, Alex, most of the kids, we give them the only meal they have a day. Most of the parents make $50, $60, $70, $80 a month. And rather than that touched my heart. And I was like, we can't, after 169 years, be living in a country where our kids only get one meal a day. Right. And although it's not something I can promise will change overnight, but that's something we're going to change. That really tugged at my heart. I also passionately believe that Liberians can change Liberia. We got the capacity, we got the intellect. We are no different from Nigerians, Ghanaians, Americans. We can do this. It's all about the will. It's all about the commitment. I don't say to Liberian people that I'm the only guy that's going to do this. I will build a team of like-minded Liberians to change this country. But I believe we can, and I'm committed to that. And I'll work every day, one, to earn the trust of Liberian people. But after earning their trust, I'll work every day to change the lives of Liberian people. So I'm very passionate about this. It's a daunting undertaking, but it's also a very exciting undertaking. I'm enthusiastically going to make the case for why I should do this.
Do you think Liberia laws that are discriminatory toward non-Negroes? And also, what's your view on the dual citizenship issue?
Let me do the last question first. On the dual citizenship issue, I believe Liberia should allow dual citizenship. I think many of our fellow Liberians, for a variety of reasons, some because of circumstances beyond their control, some because of choice, have assumed nationalities of other countries. I think we should embrace them. I think we should welcome them, and I think we should allow dual citizenship. As you know, all around us in Africa, in other parts of Asia, most countries today allow dual citizenships because for a whole host of reasons, their citizens have gone and come back and have the citizenship. So I think we should do that. I think we can leverage all Liberians in the transformation of our country. So I'm in support of dual citizenship. On the issue of non-discrimination, I think in the 21st century, we have to really carefully think about whether that's something we want to maintain or something we want to change. And so I would lean towards us being non-discriminatory based on race, but it's one I'm asking the team to take a look at. What are the implications and the consequences of that? What does it mean to Liberian people? But my bias would be to not discriminate based on race. And so my personal bias is there, but again, we're looking at the consequences and the implications of that.
Okay, so you think white non-black should be allowed to be citizens in Liberia? You think it's a good thing? Would be a good thing for the economy?
I think it'd be a good thing for the economy. I think though we have to set the criteria for doing that, right? So there got to be some residency criteria so we know that they're truly committed and they're not just coming to exploit and leave. So we just got to think about what is the criteria for qualifying to be a Liberian citizen, actually no matter what your race. And we got to be very clear. That's part of the work we're doing. So we can have a position that if you meet these hurdles, if you meet these criteria, it says to us that you're truly committed to Liberia. You are truly committed to being a Liberian, and therefore, we should allow you to be a citizen. But that criteria for me is very important. And as I said, we're going to come with a point of view on what that criteria should be in order to accept that change.
The argument against that is that, especially the dual citizenship issue, people are concerned, those who are in Liberia are concerned that if people come from America or other countries and get a job here, and they steal money and they run back to America or somewhere else, and there's no real guarantee that they will be prosecuted here. How do you?
And that's part of the criteria. That's part of what we got to look at and change to ensure that if and when that happens, right, we can make sure we prosecute them. We can actually detain them so that there's not that flight back to escape, prosecution. So part of what we need to look at, because again, it's always easy to say I support X, right? But the question, what does that mean? What's the criteria? What are the hurdles before we accept that? And that's part of the work that I think we need to do.
Before we go, let's look at back to corruption issue. There are a lot of audit reports have been done in this government. And would you prosecute based on those audits if you're elected?
The answer is yes. We'll have to just make sure the audits were properly done, that no individual was scapegoated, if you will. And but if the audit was done with the right level of rigor, right level of integrity, so we have to establish that first. Then yes, we should take a look at that. But I want to also say though, I want to focus on the future. I want to look prospectively. I don't want to spend too much time rather than looking retrospectively, going backwards. I want to look backward just to understand mistakes being made, why things didn't work. My focus is, and I want Liberian people to hear this, to see this, is about looking ahead. It's about painting a positive picture about the future of our country. It's about tapping into the potential of our people and letting them see what they can be. And that is my focus. My focus is not spending a lot of time going backwards. We are so far behind. We need a sense of urgency about what we're going to do going forward, how we're going to change our country. And I don't want to spend a lot, and I will not spend a lot of time looking retrospectively, looking backwards. If something is glaring and there's irrefutable proof, of course, we need to take a look at that. But the justice system needs to work and take a look at that. My focus, my energy is going to be looking forward, looking perspective, because I can impact today, and tomorrow I cannot do anything about yesterday.
Right.
And that's where my energy and focus is going to be, and very little time. And if some people decide not to support me because of that statement, I'm okay with that. Very little time I'm going to spend on the past.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
They are not police. You don't know them. The government does not know the plight of their citizens. They do not know how their citizens are suffering in this place. They had no good leadership in this government. The government had no good leader.
But over the period, we saw police chasing people out of here. But
They are still corrupt people. They are all MCC. They are not even police. They are Jefferson Koji police. They are not police. You don't know them. They are Jefferson Koji police, city major of this city.
So you are not being allowed to do.
Function another city operation.
How are you coping with the mandate? You are not being allowed to do your regular business, but you are still here. How is it like for you?
I copy with them. They told me to not go on the street. They said they're facing the road. And I'm not on the road. I'm far on the road.
So that means you still doing your business smoothly?
Yeah, I do my business not smoothly. I have myself and do my business.
So hiring yourself to do business, is it preferable?
Yeah, but for now, I gotta feed my family. I guess only to do the care to support my family.
Did you vote for this government? Did you support this government?
If I vote for the government, then I'll be a dead man. I would not vote for the government in my life because they had lack of leadership ability.
So when you say lack of leadership in terms of what?
They do not know the plight of their citizens. Even the president does not know the role in function.
But the development of this road is an advantage.
Yeah, we want development. We need development. But since last year, July 10, up to now, and they shot this thing. You take 1 year, and the phone is in your hand. This phone is a World Bank project.
And they also took several times to relocate people from here. Are you also considering that?
Even when we relocate us, this Red Market is a commercial center of this Republic of Liberia.
So that means it should remain as it used to be? Is that what you're saying? It should remain as it used to be, overcrowded, overpopulated?
I'm not saying that it should remain overcrowded, but you cannot take everybody from this red. So no stores are left. Business people will always be around.
Okay, so that's the issue. I think that's why they decide to close the stores temporarily.
Yeah, but when you close the store, how do you stop people from coming to red?
How do you think the road construction work can go on safely or smoothly if people are still
If
here?
people are not around, you see the barricade down there. You see the barricade when there's some rival when they're facing the annual channel or Japanese government were facing it. Were you there? You saw the road, how they were facing it. You get demarcation where citizens to pass, and the citizens were passing with all hindrance. Why they can't do the same? They carry the road from Program Factory. Then people were setting a red there. They put demarcation. Demarcation where the people were setting, and they see them facing the road. But it's a politics under the day. People had a store, Jefferson Koji and the public minister. They had their store, mega. They force people to go there. There's a politics under the whole thing. They had their stores operating.
So to conclude, what would you like to say?
Let us say this government had the tours that the business people of Liberia we don't want the business people spectators. The economy. But now we are spectators who are going to go out with all of business.
Where is about development?
Where is the development? The development can complete. While the phone is still there. So they spread the phone, they want to put blame on the business people.
Are you aware that before development take place, there's also be probably a disruption or destruction?
Yeah, we agree, but when you disrupt your citizen, you should carry it speedily. You know that it plays a commercial area. That everybody will not live on this place. Go down demarcation that a citizen will live, send their children to school. But through the business will do it, they will create funds to send our children to school and pay our family.
So if you don't make business for 1 week, or maybe there were no specific day setup, maybe that you come back to your store or your late shop or your booth, if you don't make business for the past and maybe hard yourself, what will lead to your
If I don't
family?
make business for 1 week, it affected me.
What effect it had on you?
Why effect? You know why effect it had
I
on me?
want to know. I don't know what effect it had on. I want to know that.
How the children will eat? How the children will eat? How the children will eat? How I send them to school? How I pay their transportation to go and come? Great effect.
All right. What your name?
Sabi Yuma.
Thank you, Mr. Yuma.
A book in English. A leader in the formation of the regional bodies to include the Organization of African Unity, or OAU, now the African Union, or AU, the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, and the Mara River Union, or MRU, and the list goes on and on. We should be proud, and I congratulate us Liberians for our contributions and endurance over the last 174 years. Unfortunately, and despite our living through do not reflect the age of our country. We have not managed ourselves and our resources as well as we could. We have not been as accountable to each other as we could. We have not invested as we should in building strong human and institutional capacities. And of course, we have not invested in improving systems and processes for continued democratic governance and guaranteeing Liberia remains an independent and inclusively developed nation. As a result, too many Liberians are very poor. Common and treatable illnesses continue to kill too many of our women and children. We are losing too many to the inadequacies and lapses of a broken system every day. May we now have a moment of silence for the many who have lost their lives to COVID and the recent ship that sunk on its way to Maryland. As we observe 174 years, the reality of the challenges faced by our people is clear. The moral compass of our society is broken. Too many of our young people are unemployed, and for some are unemployable. The cost of living is unbearable, forcing too many proud Liberians to become beggars. Corruption is pervasive. In distributing the nation's wealth, a few have continued to receive more than they need, while the many who desperately need more have continued to be given too little. Liberia is experiencing the worst economic conditions in a decade, with continued dismal performance in the key macroeconomic indicators, such as real gross domestic product, or GDP. Unemployment and inflation all continue to be unacceptable. For example, according to the International Monetary Fund, in 2019 and 2020, real GDP recorded negative growth of 2.5% and 3% respectively. Of course, we can blame the COVID-19 pandemic, but mismanagement, lack of accountability, planning, and corruption have continued to haunt the administration of our government. Some of our leaders continue to invest themselves in dividing Liberians, mainly along the line of tribe, religion, gender, and political association. Meanwhile, across all Liberian tribes, religions, and political parties, the living standards have continued to worsen. According to the World Bank's latest statistics, Liberia's 2020 real GDP per capita, which measures living standard, is the lowest it has been in a decade. In the United Nations Development Program Human Development Index report, Liberia was ranked 175 out of 189 countries in 2019. Things are bad for everybody, and it is only getting worse. Unemployment is high. Annual inflation is averaging over 20% in the last 3 years, seriously reducing the purchasing power of Liberians, particularly those who cannot afford it. In April of 2021, the Central Bank of Liberia released its monthly economic review, which indicates that Liberian dollars in circulation is 22.6 billion. Out of this amount, 20.8 billion, or 92%, represents currency outside the banks. There is only one logical explanation for this. People do not trust the banking system. Confidence is low. This is the price we have to pay when we politicize the banking system and corrupt it into systemic and other administrative failures. These failings, combined with non-performing loans of 26.9%, pose a high risk to the stability of the nation's financial sector. God has blessed Liberia with an abundance of natural wealth. Yet, at 174 years, we continue to beg for budgetary support, including from nations far less endowed than we are, and whose public officials and legislators are paid way less than ours. We are so rich, and yet we are so poor. Too many are suffering, with more than half of our population living on less than $1.25 a day. At least 7 out of every 10 Liberians in urban areas lack access to improved water, improved sanitation, sufficient living space, or housing durability. At 174 years, our infant mortality rate is about 84.6%, which means out of every 1,000 newborn Liberian, 846 will probably die before they reach 5 years old. At 174 years, only 1.3% of Liberians living in rural areas and 34% in urban areas have access to electricity. At 174 years, our nation still cannot feed itself. Somewhere between the Declaration of Independence and today, somewhere between the Declaration of Independence and today, we have lost our way. I know we do not need these grim statistics from the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and other international institutions to prove this point. Too many Liberians are actually living it every day in the worsening conditions of finding food, finding jobs, caring for their families, paying rent, paying school fees, paying hospital bills, and keeping a roof over their heads. At 174 years, Liberia is a difficult place. Regardless of who we prefer to blame, The truth is that we are all in serious trouble. At 174 years, Liberia does not need some of us. Our country needs all of us. At 174 years, our country does not need to settle more ethnic and political scores. It needs all of us to work together to achieve higher national goals. At 174, Liberia is too old to have hospitals with all the essential medicines and diagnostic equipment, while officials of our government with the responsibility to correct this are themselves seeking treatment in neighboring countries or farther abroad. If the government cannot fix the hospitals that the people they serve will go to when they are sick, no officials of government ought to seek medical checkups or treatment in a foreign hospital at government's expense. Therefore, fix the hospitals or use it as is. At 174, Liberia is too old to have its schools offer inferior and substandard education to our children. If the government cannot provide for the improvements of schools, then no official of the Liberian government ought to send their children to attend schools abroad. So fix the schools or send your children there too. Liberian children are amongst the brightest in the world. I see this every day at the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, or STEM, school funded by the Cummings Africa Foundation. Our children deserve more from the government to be better prepared to inherit the future and compete with children from other countries. At 174, Liberia is too old to continue to allow greed and corruption to substitute for the duty of public accountability and integrity. In both 2019 and 2020, Liberia recorded the lowest scores, representing high level of corruption, reported in the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index since 2008. Our country is too old to view honesty in public service as naivety, and to let ourselves continue to lose the duty of citizenship to partisanship. At 174, Liberia is too old to continue to allow our politics to be about tribes and religions. All of our tribes and experiences make us Liberians and must never be used to divide us. Instead, our politics must be about ideas. Ideas to improve and empower Liberians. Ideas to build our country and manage our wealth better. And ideas to finally end the things that have continued to keep us downward and backward. At 174, Liberia is too old to continue to run an economy that prioritizes others and gave Liberians no chance. Liberians cannot continue to be onlookers and bystanders to their development. At 174, Liberia is too old for the institutions of our government to continue to be weakened by lack of independence, sycophancy, as well as systemic leadership failures in transparency and accountability. We must end the imperial presidency. We must end the imperial presidency. At 174, Liberia is too old to be standing still, if not sliding backward. It is a national shame that we have fallen so far behind other nations, we are assisting and inspired towards independence. Fellow Liberians, I know we cannot change our past, but we can create our future. We can create our future. To do this, we must change the mindset that got us to where we are today. We must adopt a new national perspective that Liberia belongs to all Liberians. All Liberians, therefore, owe a duty to the country to be good citizens, to work as hard and as honestly as we can to make Liberia better for ourselves and for our children. Good citizens do not steal from the people. Good citizens do not deceive the people. Good citizens stand for what is right for the country, even if they anger a few friends and political allies. The fundamental duty of citizenship, of belonging to Liberia and being called a Liberian citizen, is to build a better country. Obedience to the law is a duty of good citizenship. Good citizens take responsibility and accept the failures of getting it wrong, as they will accept the failures of getting it right. National leaders, political, religious, community, and traditional, must be more accountable to each other and to our country. Leaders must lead by good examples so that others are encouraged to follow. We will not grow until we allow our visions, expectations, dreams, and aspirations to also grow. Therefore, national goals must be bigger, allow us to set ourselves higher, and extend our collective endeavors further. In corporations or governments, there are no shortcuts to success. Irrespective of tribe, family name, the name of the village or city in which a Liberian is born, or the choice of one's religion, success in Liberia must come to belong to every Liberian who is willing and ready to work as hard as they can to achieve that success. Opportunities must be fair and equal and equally available to all Liberians. Too often in our country, we have let ourselves settle for what is easy and for what is not right. We have continued to choose the path of least resistance, which neither tests our collective resolve nor deepens our commitment to achieve the future we seek. Too often, we have wanted change, but have let ourselves be frightened by the hard work required to get the changes we seek. Too often, we have wanted change, but have let ourselves be frightened by the hard work required to get the changes we seek. Too often, we have allowed ourselves to compromise easily rather than set good precedents and examples for the future. Unfortunately, as we have continued to settle for the easier road and look for the shortest cuts, change has never happened. Promises of change have been repeatedly broken, and doubts about change ever happening now overwhelms us. We are overtaken by the negative self-fulfilling prophecies, looking to give up when we should be standing up. In our national conversations, I hear echoes about what we cannot do instead of what we can, must, and should be doing. Change is hard. It requires hard work and determination, and it takes time. But like success, change can happen. Liberia can be better. We can build a prosperous future for all. We can unite ourselves. We can expand our economy. We can grow the national budget. We can fight corruption. We can genuinely reconcile our fractured nation. We can heal the wounds and pull ourselves together. We can end the culture of impunity and establish a war and economic crimes court. We can fix our schools, fix our hospitals, fix our roads, so that the movement of people, goods, and services are unhindered throughout the year. We can feed ourselves and export our surplus to the world. We can manufacture and add value to what God has naturally blessed our country to have. We can electrify villages and towns just as we're trying to do in Monrovia, because Liberia is much more than Monrovia. Let there be no mistake. We will not do these things overnight, immediately, or magically. But we can do all of them if we work together collectively and took responsibility for the development of our country and refuse, for example, to sell our natural resources cheaply or for kickbacks, and refuse to engage in the mismanagement of our wealth. At 174, there may not be much to celebrate, but we can begin to write a new chapter in a journey of Liberia. The next chapter can inspire the world again, because we can let the new statistics reveal that although we fell, we refused to remain down. Although we fell, we refused to remain down. We stood up, and together we forged new roads and found different paths to a better and more prosperous future for all Liberians. That we became good to each other and treated each other with love and respect. That we put our love for country above our love for personalities. That we honored excellence and frowned on mediocrity. That we became a beacon of hope again. The next chapter can show that although we lost our way, we found a new way and found ourselves again. The new story of Liberia can be that although the Lone Star was lowered, together we raised it again for all the world to see. A new Liberia flying higher and shining brighter. Happy Independence Day, fellow Liberians. Please stay safe. May God continue to bless you, and may God bless Liberia. Thank you very much. Standard bearer of the Alternative National Congress, the ANC, have been threatened with arrest and are currently on trial before the Monrovia Magisterial Court at the Temple of Justice. We have been ridiculously charged with forgery and criminal conspiracy. The accusations underlying these charges are totally false and completely baseless. Our accusers, Mr. Benani Ure and its All Liberian Party, the ALP, and the government of Liberia know these charges are baseless and false. We also know that Mr. Ure and the government of Liberia are not alone in this conspiracy to lie and tarnish our heart and reputation and integrity. Sadly, to break up the CPP, Mr. Ure and the government are being cheered on by other leaders of the CPP. These leaders are afraid that we will defeat them in a CPP Democratic primary, the process we agreed to use to choose the standard bearer of the CPP. These individuals, aware that they will lose to us, now want to break their promises to the Liberian people, but are too cowardly to take responsibility for breaking up the CPP. Hence, they are joining with the government to contrive a lawsuit against the CPP after almost 2 years of its continued existence under the same set of rules and obligations which applies to all parties, including the ANC. Feeling betrayed? Of course we are disappointed. But we are not afraid of these accusations, nor are we worried by the hypocrisy. We know the truth is on our side. We have assembled a team of great lawyers through whom we are confident the truth will be revealed, the hypocrisy will be exposed, and we will win and be vindicated. However, I'm concerned about the misdirection of our country. The conspiracy to politically prosecute opponents, aided and abetted by some members of the opposition, is bad for our young democracy. With blood, tears, and treasure, Liberians paid too high a price for our democracy, for the right to freely and fairly choose our leaders. Too often, we have allowed ourselves to think that politics is not our collective business, that it should be left to the politicians while we go about tending our daily private lives. Well, politics also determines the conditions under which we will go about our daily private lives. In fact, it determines whether our lives will be private, safe, secure, and peaceful. Politics controls everything, including how we live and what our future will be. This is why when the government begins to act dangerously, provocatively, and unfairly to threaten our peace, privacy, and democracy, we must wake up and pay attention. We must stand up and express our strong disagreements against this public wrong, because it is dangerous for all of us. When the government does the wrong things, even under the pretext of politics, in the end, it affects all of us. It affects our freedoms and our rights. It affects our economy. The prices of commodities, including rice, dry fish, palm oil, clothes, shoes, just to name a few. It affects the opportunities our country needs to attract foreign investments and thereby create jobs for Liberians and for Liberian businesses. It affects our cost of living, from kerosene to fire coal, airtime for our telephones, which is already too expensive. It affects the cost of rent and building materials. Everything is affected when the government puts its hands in the wrong type of politics. And so, the right politics will lift up our nation, just as the wrong politics will pull us down. From mosques to churches, civil society to traditional communities, and from schools to marketplaces, we share the duty not to help the wrong kind of politics become the order of its neutrality. The courts should referee our democracy, not be used to destroy it. Democratic governments do not abuse the courts or try to get them involved in political matters. But this is what is happening here. This is what this we-are-led government is doing. They are doing this to exclude me, but the actions will also affect each and every Liberian citizen, because it is your right to choose the leader you want that is being denied you. If this government is conniving to lock away its primary competition, it means 2023 will be a joke rather than a chance to seriously change the direction of our country and improve the lives of our people. The Way administration, with the help of some of our opposition friends, are conniving to come after me because they know I and the ANC represent a different threat. We represent a serious commitment to change the corrupt political system. They know that I and the ANC are the only ones with the integrity to say what we mean and mean what we say. And they know we will keep the promises we make to the Liberian people. In order to target me and the ANC, the others will gladly break up the CPP and will not lose one night of sleep over breaking their promises to Liberian people. While lying to our people and breaking promises are normal for many in the current system and for some in the opposition, it goes against the very fabric of what I and the ANC believe and stand for. This is why they have trumped up these false charges against me and the ANC. This is what this trial is about. This is wrong politics. And all Liberians need to pay close attention to this and join us in acting and speaking out against it. In 2023 and beyond, Liberians have a right to choose who their leaders will be. In 2023 and beyond, Liberians have a right to choose who their leaders will be. Neither this government nor its favored opposition candidate has any business deciding for the Liberian people who they would like to run against them by politically prosecuting the candidate they are afraid of, so as to exclude him or her from the electoral process. There are many examples all over the world where this type of behavior is practiced, and it has led to some of the longest running and most devastating regimes and conflicts in the world. In such situations, the people who suffer most are the everyday citizens, and those who benefit are those at the top. The right to choose our leaders is not one of the rights we gave to the government to exercise on our behalf. Therefore, the government conniving to do this is a violation of us and an abuse of the powers we have constitutionally given them. In times such as these, we must not remain on the sidelines. We must not remain silent. The right to choose our leaders every 6 years or in any election is a right we the people continue to constitutionally withhold for ourselves. Through this trial, again, this is wrong politics, and it is dangerous for the peace of our nation. A famous historian once said, "Great events do not happen overnight." This is true. It is the little wrongs that happen every day, which when allowed to go unchecked, eventually breaks into big wrongs, which are often too late to be checked or stopped. This is why I'm asking all of us to pay close attention, to be concerned, and to speak out now. To speak out now. This government removed an associate justice of the Supreme Court of Liberia and effectively frightened the judiciary. Now they are conspiring to choose who they would prefer to run against in 2023. We must not let them succeed. Imagine one of the greatest football players in the world and his quote-unquote world-class team are scared to face my new squad because they know we will beat them any day of the week. So rather than be embarrassed on the pitch, they are trying to have my team disqualified because we would take, before we even take the field. Disqualified before we even take the field. I, Senator Natin, and Attorney Toll are in the docket at the magisterial court, but make no mistake, the citizenship rights of every man, woman, and child of Liberia is on trial. Justice within our beautiful borders is on trial. The democracy for which our grandparents, parents, brothers, sisters, and cousins bled and died for, voluntarily and involuntarily, is on trial. Our right to choose a leader and a real change in the direction of our country and the lives of our people is on trial. This is our chance to decide the future of our country. This is our chance to redefine ourselves. This is our chance for a better Liberia. Let us not miss this chance. Let us not miss this chance. Whether we will be a weakened opposition in 2023 or a strong resistance to the corruption and failures of the we-led government is on trial. Whether we will continue to accept the mismanagement of our country's natural resources, by which we continue to be counted among the poorest and most corrupt nations on earth, is on trial. We cannot choose to be silent and uninterested, or the outcome will certainly haunt all of us. We will all continue to suffer. We will all continue to have to struggle for work. We will all continue to beg to feed ourselves. We will all continue to have to live with the shame and embarrassment that we picked a leader who continues to fail us again and again while enriching himself and his friends. Now is the time to stand up. Now is the time to be heard. It is not enough that we only wish the right things to happen in our country. Now is the time to make the right things happen. History has shown that the continued silence and inaction of any people will only feed the dangerous wrongs leaders selfishly perpetuate against the people. Now is the time to act strongly and decisively so that we do not enable the resistance of a discredited system to overcome our desires for real change. As I've often said, change is hard. The people who are benefiting from the corrupt system will naturally fight against those who want to change it. We handed them the nation's wallet, hoping they would invest for us. But all they have done is taking money out of our pockets. Liberians are worse than spectators to their own economy. We are not even in the VIP section, stadium wing, or around the field. In our own country, we are on the outside of the fence looking in and begging for tickets. Those who want change cannot just stand by and watch. Real change requires all of us believing, speaking, and acting for it to happen. Often, for real change to happen, people have to stand up and stand together. We have to act strongly and speak decisively. Regardless of your tribe, religion, gender, or party, I know deep inside we can all agree that our country must change. We must change the direction of Liberia and improve the living conditions of our people. We simply cannot continue in this leaderless, irresponsible, and corrupt way. My fellow Liberians, for too long, we have been divided by tribe, gender, region, religion, and political party. But let us not forget, suffering has no tribe, hunger has no religion, struggle has no gender. That is why the poverty we all see and experience every day cuts deep across every tribe, every gender, every region, every religion, and every political party. One thing is abundantly clear: from our shorelines to our eco-rich forests, from mines filled with untapped gold, iron ore, and diamonds, to potential offshore oil reserves. Liberia is too rich for Liberians to be so poor. Liberia is too rich for Liberians to be so poor. From right here in Monrovia to the remotest villages and towns across Liberia, everywhere I go, it breaks my heart to see our people living in such poor and inhumane conditions, and to hear their stories of repeated hopelessness, broken promises, and despair. We are too old to be the better nation that we are, unable to feed ourselves and looking for handouts from the rest of the world. While our leaders steal and plunder the nation's wealth, too many of our mothers are dying at childbirth and from treatable illnesses because of a poor health delivery system. While we waste resources and our leaders are lavishly gloating in ill-gotten wealth, too many of our children are dying before they reach their 5th birthday. Our leaders are partying and enjoying themselves. They are building new homes both here in Liberia and abroad. They are buying themselves expensive vehicles and sending their children to fancy schools, while the government is failing to support our schools. Our schools are then failing our children, and too many of our children are dropping out and being left too far behind with no future. Enough is enough, my people. Enough is enough. Too many of our old and retired citizens are forced to become beggars with little to no care for the disabled and others with disabilities. Our government should be looking to take care of its elders. Yet, we continue to lose our way, to lose our values, with leaders taking no responsibilities, showing no vision, no leadership, while too many of our people are suffering, giving up, and dying. Again, enough is enough. Enough is enough. My fellow Liberians, I know too many of you have given up on change. For too long, promises have been made only to be broken. For too long, you have been promised equality in the distribution of the nation's wealth, only to see our leaders make themselves rich and richer as Liberians become poor and poorer. Doors of opportunities are being shut in your faces because you happen to belong to a tribe or a religion or even a gender. The stealing from the people has only gotten worse and worse. Well, this too is why they fear me. I am not a typical politician. The government knows it cannot bribe me or shut me up. My friends in the CPP know I'm dead serious about the promises I make. My track record of results speak for themselves. My opponents know they cannot frighten me or blackmail me, not even with false charges and political prosecution. They know this because all I am interested in is helping to change our country for the better, to make us do the right things, because it will make Liberia better. And they know I mean it. And so, today, I ask you not to lose hope. Now is not the time to give up. Like they say, when evil men connive, good people must unite. If you think things are bad, or if you are unhappy with where our country is, or if you are tired of your living conditions, all across the various tribes, regions, religions, genders, and parties, if we don't stand up and act together as strongly and as decisively as we should for real change, I assure you, things will only get worse. And it will not just their children tomorrow. Wake up today for your future and the future of all of our children. Stand up. Stand together. Be heard. Be seen. Liberia needs all of us to get better. And all of us need a better Liberia. God bless you, and may God bless Liberia.
the Renaissance Communications Incorporated, and thank you for that promo. It's coming up on tomorrow on State of the Nation, going back into history, November 12, 1985, November 12, 2021, 36 long years, and we needed to just go back into history. So as I said, let me use this time to introduce the standard bearer of the Alternative National Congress, a constituent party member or member of the collaborating political parties. It's not strange to the airwave 96.1, but this is his debut on State of the Nation. Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings, welcome. My name is Chris. How are you?
Chris,
Yes.
good to be with you. I'm well, thank you. And as you say, I've been in the studio a few times, but my first time on State of the Nation. So it's wonderful to be with you and Magdalene as well.
Good to see you. You look energetic.
I am. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling strong. I'm blessed.
Okay, let's come as fast, but we got like an hour to go. Let me first, what is the state of affairs? I usually ask this question deliberately every time we meet. What is the state of affairs of the Alternative National Congress?
The party is doing very well, Chris. The party is energized. As you know, we went to a convention where I was blessed to be elected the standard bearer of the ANC. We are also actively investing in the party, in the county structures. We're trying to give them mobility so they can recruit. I have no empirical evidence, but I believe we are the fastest growing political party in the country. There's a lot of energy in the ANC.
That's self-glorification.
Well, you could claim it that way, and that's why I made it clear I don't have any empirical evidence.
Okay.
But from the energy I see, from the number of people that are reaching or wanting to join us, the state of the ANC is good.
Okay, and I'd like to reach out to the other media outlet, also in studio, Spoon, and also relaying this one, this production, and we all will be together up to the closure. So, yes, with the briefing from the ANC, let's get into the first thing I want to. Something is just sparked up yesterday. We need to talk on it, and you've always mentioned it every time you have an opportunity to talk to media. There's another failure in the Millennium Challenge. Four times failing. This should raise the eyebrow of the Liberian people.
Absolutely, Chris. This government is makes all kind of excuses for all kind of things, right? They blame the opposition, they blame the prior government, all of this stuff. It is a fact that at least 3 consecutive times they have failed the MCC, right? On the one hand, they claim they inherited a quote-unquote a mess, but the prior government passed though, right?
Yes.
In consecutive years, and they have failed consecutively. And look, I want Liberian people to understand this thing, right? There are 20 categories. All you gotta do is, for the kind of country we are, Liberia, you just gotta make 50%. You gotta just pass half of it.
Yes.
And they can't even do that.
10 out of 20.
Yes, 10 out of 20, 3 years in a row. So I don't know what the excuse is. And then I heard the Minister of Finance blaming the education. But President, we are on the whole government. He ain't just on fiscal policy or the economy or rule of law, or he owns everything. So if one fails, he fails. And so I also want Liberian people to know that these are what they call objective measures. This is not because Alexander Cummings says so, the ANC says so, the CPP says so. These are measures that the government reports, right? That the MCC measures, and they have failed. But beyond these measures, the Liberian people are feeling the suffering, Chris. So yes, these are facts. They have failed consistently. But what's more important is that our people are feeling this failure in the inability to feed themselves consistently well, inability to pay their rent, to pay their children's school fee. I'm even talking about saving a little bit of money for their retirement. These are the consequences of the MCC failure in the sense that our people are struggling. If you ask the average Liberian across this country, are you better off today than you were when President Weah became president? 99% of Liberian people will say they're worse off. So these things are not just numbers; they are real in the lives of our people. And I'm glad this has come on now, because these are not facts. That they can make all the excuses, they can blame everybody, but it's happening consistently.
Does it sound enviable if I was reading on the report in the West African sub-region, and I bump into this one, Sierra Leone, being named as the best performer in the Mana River Basin. They used to be trailing all behind Liberia all those years.
Exactly.
But here they are. They seem to be the darling boy now, darling guy in MRU.
Yeah, almost you can think about it, our loss is their gain. But you're absolutely right. And again, so I think several months ago, maybe a year or more ago, one of the excuses the government made was, the global economy, what's happening around the world. But then when you look in the region, our neighboring countries are doing better than we are. The Ivorians are doing better than we are. The Sierra Leoneans are doing better than we are. And on the MCC, the Sierra Leoneans have requalified, right? So that other excuse, that one has gone away though. It is about the incompetence and the ineptitude of this government. And again, yes, the MCC is embarrassing to us as a people, as a country. But what's even more important is that our people are feeling the pain. They're feeling the suffering, right? And this government got to start making excuses. And by the way, I hope they can improve. I hope next year they can pass. The finance minister predict they will pass. I hope so, because if that means our people are suffering less, that's what we should want. That's what we should all wish. But he predicted a year before and they didn't pass this year. So I don't know if we should have any confidence that they will pass next year. But if they do, that will not be a bad thing, by the way. And we should hope and wish that they pass, because hopefully that means the suffering is less on our people.
Okay, so Magdalene is on the other side. She's in the main studio, my co-presenter. In just in case you want to ask this question, just signal me. And this is State of the Nation. So how do you feel, and this is the last question from my end on this MCC stuff, how do you feel as a politician that 500 million, half a billion at stake is blown off only because we feel the exam, even though the exams questions were given beforehand? How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, well said, Chris. The exam questions were given beforehand. And we failed the exam 3 times in a row at least. And we knew the question, not just this time, we knew the question from before, right? So what's the excuse, right? So all of those resources are lost to us because of the ineptitude of the government. And so shame on them. I want to say to the Liberian people, again, that I blame everybody. I want to remind us as a people, we elected President Weah and his government. They're not doing this work for free. They get paid. President Weah get paid, the ministers get paid, the legislators get paid. So it's not like they're doing this stuff for nothing. We elect them, we give them the constitutional authority to manage our resources, to manage our country. We pay them to do it, and yet they're failing at it. They are failing at it. And again, the good news is these are objective criteria. As you say, you put it the right way, they knew the exam questions in advance, and they still couldn't pass the exam questions.
Well, let's praise them a little. Narrow miss. We miss out narrowly. Let's do it holistically, collectively as a Liberian. We miss out narrowly. In some places, we scored, man. Gender in the economy, 94%. That's excellent.
Yeah, look, I'm one, as you know, will always acknowledge when things go well by anybody, right? And that's why I said I hope the finance minister prediction is correct that it will pass next year, because that hopefully means the country is improving and the suffering is getting less, right? But the reality is, Chris, they failed, right? Almost, I think there's a saying, saying that almost is only good in playing horseshoe. You gotta pass the exam. If 70% is what you need to make out of 100 to pass to get a C, and you miss 69, you fail. You still get a D, right, or F, depending on how you think about the grade. So this government has successfully failed. And again, I'm repeating myself here, but it's important that I do. It's not about this number, it's about the suffering our people are feeling.
Okay.
All right.
In 1 minute, recommendations, just for the sake of next year.
So there are many things the government needs to do to improve. First of all, the whole rule of law, right? Because if you don't have rule of law, your private sector will not thrive. If you don't have security, maybe we'll talk about it. I don't know if it's on your list of questions.
Yes, I got it.
If people don't feel secure, you're not going to get improvements. If you're not growing the private sector, if you're not creating the right environment for the private sector to thrive, you're not going to grow your economy. If you're not investing in productive resources, in productive areas, you're not going to grow your economy. So those are all areas that this government needs to improve upon so that, again, we reduce the suffering on the Liberian people.
Okay, as I said, state of the nation. So the line of questioning is measured in the inverted pyramid style. That I like. So we'll slip down to security, insecurity in the country, and mysterious death, and the list goes on and on. The government sometimes comes and deny that there are mysterious killings. Sometimes the media will have to break the news before people get to know. Put yourself in. Let's do a mock or a dummy here. Mr. Cummings is the president of the Republic, and this information are coming. And the first and foremost, what do you do? What does the executive mansion do in the case of these kind of secret killings and mysterious deaths?
Yeah, first of all, in a Cummings administration, these things will not happen. Let me tell you why. Because we would do the following things and we make sure those things are in place. And let me remind you, Chris, Magdalene, and the Liberian people, that the security of the individual citizens of the country is the most fundamental responsibility of the government. If you don't feel safe in your home, in your country, in your neighborhood, then it's life worth it, right? That's so fundamental, so basic. And again, the failure is there. But in a Cummings administration, first of all, we'll make sure that our police force, all the security folks, will be managed by professionals. We'll make sure it's not politicized. 2, we will make sure they have the resources required to do the job. There will be no political interference in the work. They will make sure the rule of law is applied to everybody. There will be no exception. I, as a leader, and the leaders in my government will follow the rules of law, because there's small things you do that signal to people that you don't care about enforcement of the rule of law, like even enforcing the traffic rules, or what is the stealing that happens. All of these things, we will set the example. People will know we're serious, that when you violate any law, you will be punished. And people will see the resources being allocated to that. They will see the performance of the security organizations, and therefore these things will not happen. And when they happen, we will make sure we investigate. The government can't deny it's happening, because I think I just saw a notice from the Ministry of Justice talking about the actions they're taking, offering rewards for some of the recent deaths and that kind of stuff. So there's no denial. And the fear is in the country. Again, they blame the opposition, they blame. It's time that they take responsibility and they take some action. And so, back to your question, these things will not happen, because we'll make sure. And the other thing, though, Chris.
Yeah.
Again, some of these things are a manifestation of the hardship in the country, of the suffering in the country. So if we are growing the economy, if we are creating jobs, if people's incomes are going, if people feel more secure, many of the challenges we're seeing will not manifest themselves. So that's another thing that will be different.
Yes, we'll come to the opportunity. I have an economy list.
But this is all linked to. Yeah, I know we'll come to that, but these things are all
Sure, I do agree. But you said these things will not happen. That is an attempt to create a paradise on earth. Conflict is as old as mankind. Imagine the president takes on the podium, the microphone, and addressing his people or her people, to say there will be no this kind of a death in, if it happens, it embarrasses you subsequently.
So, look, I'm not saying, and thanks for asking so I can clarify. I'm not saying that there will be paradise in Liberia, right? But I'm seeing the systematic things that are happening, the fear that exists in the country. People unfortunately will steal, you have bros, you have people who will kill, those things, but it will not be systemically as is happening now. And that's the difference. That's the distinction I'm trying to make.
At what proportion do you think this is, even though a death of a single compatriot is as big as the universe, at what proportion do you think we've reached with this current situation?
Well, I mean, I don't know how to measure it in terms of numbers, whatever, but I think
Out of control?
I think the fear level in the country is not acceptable. Liberians should not live in the fear they're living in. They should feel free to go out in the evenings in the neighborhood, socialize with friends. People shouldn't be running home as soon as it turns dark. And so I think the level of fear, the level of concern in the country is at an unacceptably high level. And that's the piece I'm seeing will be different, actually. I'm not sure.
And you got some Liberians faking the situation.
Yeah.
That should be a concern of...
That would be, any Liberian who fake, and by the way, if we catch you faking the situation, again, there needs to be consequences, right? You can't just fake it and kind of get away with it, right? Because that's what pervades the environment and it helps to fuel the fear. So whether you actually do it or you fake it, neither one are acceptable. And there should be consequences for both kinds of behaviors.
19 minutes after 4 o'clock, you're tuning in or watching State of the Nation and being simulcast on Spoon TV, and Real TV. And Magdalene handles the technical aspect of the production in Studio A. My name is Christopher Selly, and I'm here with the standard bearer of the Alternative National Congress, Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings. We're discussing a wide range of national issues, and we just talk on the Millennium Challenge stuff. We slip down to the mysterious killings and disappearances. Now, let's come to the bigger part of it, the economy. Every time you have an opportunity to sit before the microphone, you got different version or interpretation of the Liberian economy. Meanwhile, the Minister of Finance, Development Planning, Samuel Tway, 3 days ago, termed this economy as the best performing economy as compared to the last one in recent times. You agree?
I gotta laugh, Chris, because the question is based on what? I mean, just making an assertion, just making a statement doesn't
You say
make it true.
the Liberian dollar is appreciating now with the current
But the question is why, and again, what's the manifestation of that in the lives of the average Liberian?
You got another interpretation?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear you.
The interpretation, let's look at what's happening in our country today. Inflation is up. So the price, what that means, my fellow Liberians, is that the price you're paying for your food, your rent, your children's school fees, all of those things are going up. And just strengthening of the Liberian dollar in abstract doesn't mean anything if the average Liberian is not feeling the benefit, if you will, of what the minister declares this great economy. So the reality is that making that statement doesn't make it right, doesn't make it true. And again, we know the average Liberian is feeling the suffering. This is why in the by-elections last year in December, the verdict Liberians gave was that out of the 15 seats where the CDC feel like candidates, I think they won 2 or 3. That for me was a tangible manifestation of the unhappiness of the Liberian people, right? So for the minister to make that sort of statement, maybe refer to the strengthening of the Liberian dollar, that is not the manifestation of what's truly happening in the country and the suffering our people are facing. And again, if you look at the MCC, we talked about earlier, those are clear facts. That is not, what he proclaims it to be.
if you were in charge as president, what do you do with kind of a minister of finance?
So, if I was president of Liberia, first of all, and I think Liberians know this about me, is that the economy, the private sector, is the area I understand. That's the area I grew up in. And, if I had this kind of economy under my watch, first of all, the Liberian people should not re-elect me if that happened. But I would not have a minister of finance making those sort of statements when we're failing the Millennium Challenge, the MCC, if you will. And so, but let me talk about some of the things we need to be doing.
Yes.
Right, to improve.
I like the recommendation
To,
part of it.
yeah, to sort of improve the economy. In no particular order, first of all, I always keep saying we gotta stop the stealing, we gotta stop the corruption in our country, and take those money and reinvest it in more productive sources. That's one of the first things we gotta do. The second thing we gotta do, again, I say second, all of these things we gotta do, I don't mean in this particular sequence or order, if you will. But another thing we gotta do is we gotta make sure the environment for Liberians to invest in business, for them to, employ people, for them to grow their business. We gotta make sure the business environment is improving and is conducive for private sector growth for employment. Yeah. We also have to direct resources into investing in agriculture to make sure we're producing food so that we can feed ourselves. And that's a long-term return, but you got to start now to start actually doing that. So again, we can improve it. We can improve our economy. We have to also make sure we're finding ways to drive revenue in our country, so we can continue to invest in healthcare. We can invest in education. We can create jobs for our young people. These are all things we have to do if we want to Liberia to grow and for us to grow our economies. And these are some examples of the things we'll do to make sure we are at a different place from where we are today.
Yes, those are recommendations for the strengthening of the economy. One could just say, why not communicate these excellent intervention or recommendations to the status quo? You once upon a time called on them that you wanted to intervene in the fight against violence. They accepted with open arms, and these kinds of recommendations are just good enough to share with the government.
So we've given recommendations in the past, but actually, you know what? I'm happy to do it again. I'm happy to summarize my thoughts, and I'm happy to share with them. Okay. So we've done it in the past, as you know. In fact, we talked about it right on this show whenever we were here the last time. But I'm happy to dust it off, to update it, and to send it to the government. And let's hope they implement the recommendations.
Yeah.
Yes, Mark?
Yeah, Mr. Cummings, you just mentioned education, and that's what I've been waiting for all along. On the scorecard of the MCC, let me just take you back a little bit. Girls' education failed 27%, and 23% for failed girls' education, and the other one is girls' education and primary education, excuse me. So I really want to know if you are still giving recommendations. So what do you think should we do to improve this sector? Because education remains the bedrock of every society. So what should we do? Is it should we just leave it with the ruling party, or is it a collective effort of the opposition, no opposition, and including the ruling party?
So, Magdalene, it's a good question, and again, I'm trying to answer it in a way that can help the audience, our people understand, is that the opposition is a group of citizens, Liberian citizens, who use their own resources to help where they can and to try to hold the government accountable. We also, good opposition, make recommendations, provide solutions to the government. But the government, and Liberian people, I hope you are listening to me, the government has control of the resources, Magdalene. We elect them, we pay them to manage the resources of Liberia. They have the responsibility to do it, they have the authority to do it, and it is their job to do it. As an opposition leader, I only have so much personal money I can invest, and I will give examples of what I'm doing in education. But my hand can only reach so far. My pocket is so deep. I help where I can. The primary way I can help as an opposition leader is to provide recommendations, to provide solutions, and then to try to hold them accountable by pointing out to Liberian people where their shortcomings are. But it is their job. It is their responsibility. They get paid to do it. They're supposed to be doing it. And we should be clear on that. In the case of the Cummings Foundation, we provide scholarships to students. We have a STEM school. STEM is science, technology, engineering, math, because that's the future. We want people to focus on technology. It's just down the road here. We significantly fund that. But the kinds of things we should be doing, though, to fix our educational system. The first and most important thing we should do is we need to invest in teachers' training and to pay our teachers well. That at every level, invest in teachers' training at the university level, the secondary level, primary level, and so on and so forth. Because if you don't have well-trained, educated teachers, the educational system will not work. It will fail. Because the saying go garbage in, garbage out. If you're not teaching good at every level, the fundamentals, and then if you're not paying them a living wage, you will encourage them to take money to change grades, and all that corruption stuff will happen in the school. So that is foundational to fixing the system, is to invest in our teachers and teachers training, paying them well, and making sure they're educated. And then we got to use technology to help in that process as well, to speed it up, because it will take time to train the thousands of teachers we need. So for those good ones, we should use technology. We should use Zoom and stuff, because you can sit here in the studio and you can be teaching students in Zwedru, in Vonjama, in Kolahon, wherever, yeah, in Saclapie, right? And you can be giving them good education. So we can use technology to accelerate our educational progress, if you will. And then we also need to make sure we are providing vocational training, because not everybody will go the university route, right? And so if we're going to grow the economy, we need to grow the economy. If we're going to grow infrastructure, we need to do that. We need plumbers, electricians, carpenters, all these other folks. And so we need to be investing in vocational training. And then we need to be investing in primary, starting with the young people, right? So those are the kinds of things we should be doing, Magdalene. But is it responsibility of the government? Our job as opposition is to hold them accountable, is to give us recommendations, solutions. And where we can, we should help. And we do that. But it's not the responsibility of opposition to do that.
I know you opposition have been making some recommendations, but have the government taking those recommendations into consideration?
Well, again, given what just happened with the MCC and the failure on the educational side, and I think I was told the minister of finance blamed the education piece for why they failed. So I think the answer is there, that they're clearly not doing what's necessary to improve
But it's
the
hard to see,
educational
right?
sector.
Especially the area of failure. Girls' education, primary education, it should be a concern of a serious-minded person.
And it is. It should be concerned of the entire country, that there are failures in those areas.
Yes.
And again, our educational system needs, like many things in our country, needs a lot of work. And I think all Liberians want to see is that, the improvements are happening, and that they can sort of see it and feel it in their lives. And I don't think that's happening today.
Okay, there's 29 minutes or up to the hour. So at 20 minutes or up to the hour, we open the lines, and you will briefly interact with the studio guest, Mr. Cummings of the Alternative National Congress. Let me ask you, we expect billions of Liberian dollars to be printed, if not printed yet, but infusing into the commerce and monetary space of Liberia. I know when the news broke that the government wanted to print, you had a press conference and made several checkmates. Yet, they went ahead, money is printed, I want to believe, and very soon, new banknotes are on the market. Meaning your recommendations or your concerns were not ahead to, and went ahead.
Yeah, so if I may take a few minutes to just recount what our concerns and what our objections were. And first of all, when this government took over, they said there was too many Liberian dollars floating around. And so they asked the legislature for $25 million to quote unquote soak up the excess currency. So that's kind of the first thing they said. And then we all know about the printing money saga that happened and the various investigations around that. And no real clarity on exactly what happened there. And so the concerns until you can explain how the 25 million so-called was used, until you fix all the inadequacies that were pointed out at the time, should we trust the government to print more and new money with all those things being addressed? Now, let me also say, though, sometimes you got to print more money or new money. Sometimes it makes sense to redenominate your currency, right? And so some of that, there are valid reasons. But you need to do it in an environment where the central bank is well managed, is well run. You can account for this money. And then you can't just loosely print money, because if you print too much money and you put too much money into the economy, you drive inflation. You have too much money going after too few goods and services. You will drive inflation and you will make the situation even worse. And so again, we just want the government to do the right things, to do it in the right way. And just printing money by itself will not solve our economic challenges and problems. The economy is based on the productive capacity. As long as we are importing almost everything we consume, Chris, right? We will have a weakened economy. Now, changing that, fixing that will not happen overnight. It will take time. But we need to be implementing economic policies that will change that over time, right? So just printing money by itself will not solve any problems. And then printing it in an environment where we're not sure about the checks and balances and that sort of stuff, I think is a recipe for more and future problems in the not too distant future.
And it's like we've still not found the solution to. But again, they said they justify the reason why they want to print and infuse the new currency because, well, mutilations all over the place.
But that's why I said, Chris, again, I like to be balanced and fair. There are sometimes using it again. I'm not saying it well, I'm just saying I hope so. Right? But that's the point. You take money, you take the mutilated ones out, you put new fresh notes in, right? And if your economy is growing, you need to add more currency to fuel the economic growth. So there are reasons for that. The problem is, are we confident that will happen? That the processes are in place to control it? And what I'm saying is, given the history of performance of this government, I'm not sure those processes are there that will make sure this thing happen in the right way, and so that the net benefit of why you do that will actually materialize for that people.
So you can predict confusion?
I hope not, but yes, I would say if
look at the fear U.S. president. You hope they're going to bring them the ones withdrawn from.
But that's what they should be doing.
But that's the normal protocol.
And I say I hope they do. I hope they do. Right.
Okay, so let's begin taking calls. This will take us up to at least 10 minutes, and it's on 07751444278. Madeline will take the calls from that end, 07751444278, and I will intermittently squeeze in some calls from this end. Mike, do you have calls coming in?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Yeah, good afternoon. Are you getting him?
Ali, let's hear you. Yes.
Yeah.
My name is Ali Kelly, and I'm calling from District 10. Let me say good afternoon to Mr. Cummings in studio. You see, the issue of this government, the government public records and school cards are really insane in its ways. And it is quite unfortunate that people will be asking for second chance. And my response to them is that there is no second chance for first impression. You have seen this money. You must give the stage to allow serious people who have competence, people who have the contacts to attract foreign direct investment, people who will explore opportunities for young people to build and deliver capacities. These are serious things we need to see happening in this country.
Okay.
All the government officials, what we see is that slogan hearing, active lending slogan, and all of these things, they are not helping young people to build and capacity. We need serious leaders in this country who understand what needs to be done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A lot of people hanging on. Magdalene, you got calls coming? 077-514-4278. Mike, are you there?
Yeah, there is no call for now.
Okay, let me take this one, squeeze this one in. And hello? Yes? Sorry? Hold on, let me adjust the line a little bit. Yes? Sorry.
Can I take it from here?
Yeah, take it from now. Let me adjust.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you are live.
You are live, Chief. Let's hear you.
Hello?
Hello?
Please make your point. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Make your point, please.
My name is Daniel, my friend. I'm talking about topic.
Let's hear you.
Yeah. Like I said, my name is Daniel White Sherry. I'm calling from Tottenham Bromley.
Stanley, let's hear you.
Let me say thank you to Mr. Arizona Barry Cummings. The young people of the Western region, we know your capability, we know what you put out. And at the end of the day, we know you need a CCTV, and we will vote you on readiness for the Western region. Thank you very much for the platform.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me take this call from this end. Hello? Yes, let's hear you. Let's hear you. Hello? I don't know what's going on. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, take it from my end. Yes. Hello? Yes?
Thank you. My name is Jesse Virginia, and I'm calling from my Douglas number.
Douglas, let's hear you, Chief.
Yeah, I want to say plentiful thanks to Mr. Cummings. I think he's always taking as a solution is person in access of because time about number, he has demonstrated that just not the traditional politician who's used for qualification. But that, I have a question to Mr. Cummings, and I have to do with the issue of the economy for which we have yet and continue to fail. My question to him is, as a financial expert judging from a school of thought, is it that if whenever a country goes about printing money, the volume of money that needs to be printed needs to be told the currency in terms of the amount, and we would like to know if he has any idea as to the security feature, because we are ordinary Liberians have absolutely zero idea on these things, and these are some of the things that create hills in our financial sector. So I would like to hear from him.
Okay.
Before the government goes printing money, what are the mechanisms for this? What are the avenues and local researchers?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let me see what I can squeeze this one in. Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
State of the Nation. This is Daniel Mobakugu, and I'm phoning from District number 4, West Area to Borough.
Yes, Daniel, let's hear you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting the Honorable Cummings in the studio, but my concern has to do with the young population of this country. If you look at the population nowadays, it's like it's draining down the drain, we're going down the drain by the day, by the presence of the ghettos. So my question to Mr. Cummings, what direction is he looking when it comes to the young people, rescuing them from the who are quagmire of the dungeon. Now, if he gets into power, what his programs?
Okay.
Before they play.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Matt, you got called?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. Hello, you live. Hello? Hello? Mike, you got to.
Yeah, hello?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we
You
have to.
are live. Your name?
Let me take this one. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, Christopher.
Yes, let's hear you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, man. I want to congratulate the students.
What's your name?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Yeah, Mr. Cummings.
What is your name?
I'm Double Livingston.
All right, Mr. Livingston, let's hear you.
Yeah. Mr. Cummings, I want to congratulate you for your previous statement like that.
Okay.
But you know, most of the time, Liberians come to us and tell us that they want to liberate us, they are enemies. You know, concerning the issue of the leadership. So we depend on you because you were part of the CTV, and later you did it up from there. You said you want to do your own, but we don't have nothing to say. I guess I want to go to politics. It depends how you want to do it.
Okay.
So when you are telling us now, if we want to go with you now, we don't know how you will treat us.
All right. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Mark. Take that call. Yes.
Hello. Hello. Yeah.
Okay, you move from the noise.
Thank you for having me on the platform. My name is Bilal B. Suarez, a member of the ANC. Let me just go afternoon to the next president within Mr. Alexander Cummings. Basically, I've listened to Mr. Alexander Cummings, and I think he has said it all. But what we want to tell our people here is this. Already we know from the practical aspect that the George P.L.S. government has built. But what can we do to invent a better thing is to rally around people who has the capacity of people who has built a kind of a connection with international and both national people.
Okay.
Ensuring that our country can get there. So, I mean, we speak to your conscience to understand that Mr. Alexander Cummings is not coming to the table with just what he's saying, but what is out there, and that cannot be done except you, the Liberian people, understand that Mr. Alexander Cummings is the one who has come to make the change.
Okay.
So we get better work together. Mr. Alexander Cummings, what are you guys doing as a leader? I believe in the agenda and stuff. What are you guys doing as a leader in ensuring that?
Okay. Thank you.
Because that's the only authority we have in our
Thank you. Thank you. This caller you on? Hello? Hello? Oh, you drop off. Hello? Let's hear you. Let's hear you.
Let me appreciate this afternoon coming to the nation in the higher platform. But what you have to do, if you are creating this government 4 years still in power, and looking at health, education, and the security and economy, what would be the group of the government? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma. You got
Hello?
called. Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, my name is Kobe Daya Panega,
Yeah.
and I joined from a Chicken Advisor God resident.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Let me say thank you to my political leader and he is the Messiah, the man who will never Liberia. One thing I got from Mr. Cummings is when he talked about corruption. I think one of the things that happen in Liberia development is because of corruption. Everybody have a political connection, so they think they can do anything and it will go taxi. But I trust Mr. Cummings that I know what he can do.
Okay.
With his past experience and his result. I know that he's going to tackle these things and Liberia is going to get better. And Liberia is going to get better under Mr. Cummings.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me take this caller. Hello?
Hello?
Yes?
This is Abenigo Pimaris and I come from Australia.
Abenigo, let's hear you. 1 minute.
Yeah, we just want to tell the city thing, Mr. Cummings. I want to hear him, and I just want to let's go with this podcast because you know this the CDC was been there from 2005. I feel like real people. Look at the finance minister and saying that he's the best educated man. So why is that Mr. Parker to come together? Then if Okay. Just go. Just go. Let's just take them for me. I tell you, man, we are for them.
Okay, Abednego. Okay, Abednego. Thank you so
Can I
much.
take a call?
Yeah, take the last two from that end.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Mommy, you gotta pull strength in your voice. What's your name and where you calling from?
Yes, my name is Simple Trail, calling from Fighter Community to be exact.
Okay, please go on.
Yeah, I'm first on the Mr. Cummings, thank you for the dedication work that you've been doing with the Liberian people. The hope to see come to the 23 to 14 massively for some of nations to take over Liberia as a whole.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let me take it from this end. Hello? Yes, let's hear you.
Go out of the box. Anyway, I didn't hear you speaking about it, but my concern has to do with Mr. Cummings. You were the...
You want to call your name? You want to call your name?
I said I'm Philip T. Walker.
Philip Walker. Okay.
Yeah, your neighbor from CMJ.
Let's hear you.
All right, Mr. Cummings, you were the chairperson of the CPV when the saga of these structures and the numerical changes came out. And it was established that these things happen definitely. I want to hear from you in clear terms. Do you have any regret being the chairperson of the CPV at the time and the CPV is in this saga? And if yes, what is the regret and what is the way forward?
Okay, thank you.
I want to hear that from you.
Thank
What
you.
is the way forward?
Thank you.
Do you have any regret?
Thank you. Let me close on the call here. This one, hello?
Oh, good afternoon to you.
Yes.
My name is Charles Tia, call from Kumasi.
Yeah, Charles, 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm looking. So, the thing I don't want my first question I have to go to Mr. because I only answered this question. You know, he was at the top of leadership at Cocoa Factory. So, right now, Africa, the World Trade Organization, has been here as African or Nigerian. So, I want to ask him what his relationship with her and what did he know about the same name from Africa, number one. Number two, we talk about climate change, you know, who's has been depleted in the greenhouse gas. And China and India are the worst polluters of the climate. So we had a COP26 lately. So what was it? Whether it was a success or whether it was a failure as climate change. And what would it when it comes to power as president to help with climate change?
Thank you.
My third one,
No, Chief. You know that three questions?
I think I need you.
Eh? No.
I think I'm just I'm looking at you on the phone.
Okay, go on.
So the last have to do with the way government collect taxes, you know, the money is driving the way you go into school. You see people in the streets for asking for travel, they say ask for registration and so on and so on. So I'm gonna I want the Ministry of Finance Commission to go to one tax administration to have APA. When you buy a car, you register it, you invest it, do everything there. All that traffic in. What will you do? What is the government? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark. You can close up with the last two, and I think yes, you got caller.
Yeah, hello?
Okay.
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you are loud.
All right, thank you for having me on the show and email this afternoon. This is Bongo, a friend of Bongo, and I joined you from beautiful city of Phoenix. So let me first say welcome to Mr. Cummings to our city. But let me just say this. I'm glad that I have listened to Mr. Cummings. You have spoken very well. There's no argument that this government has issued this bill. All right, and then sometimes it is laughable when we hear those who support government asking the Liberian people to accept concern. But then when you also look in the Asian community, all right, you see two faces, and with these two faces, you can see clearly that one person has the enemy. One person has over time, every pretended how he said, cheating this.
Okay, thank you.
So I want to use this as a wavelength to call on all Nigerians from all parts of life in this country. Let us ride around the movement so that he can be able to present a change that this country deserves. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Okay, due to time, we can't take any more calls. So Mr. Cummings will address your concerns within the time frame, and that is if he can, especially the guy who brought the triple barrel question. Yes, Mr. Cummings.
So we'll try to get to all of the questions and try to be efficient in answering the question. So he asked a question about Coca-Cola. I'm not sure I understood the question specifically, but
Said there's a Nigerian lady, whether you got any connection with her. Maybe the question is in the direction whether you still have.
So look, I retired from Coca-Cola in 2016. I'm no longer an employee. And I remind people that, you know, Coca-Cola was not a family-owned company. I didn't own it. I didn't, you know, but I did well. It's a global company. At one point, I was the top 2, top 3 executive globally for this company. We did very well. Manages a very large, complex organization. I'm very proud of my time there and the responsibilities I had. I managed budgets well in excess of our national budget and did it with integrity, Chris and Magdalene. And the company employs people from around the world. Americans, Chinese, Japanese, Nigerians, Liberians, you know. So it's a global company. I think is a Kenyan lady who runs all of East and Central Africa now for the company. I think there's a young guy from Burkina Faso actually who runs kind of West and Central Africa. But again, I retired 4 or 5 years ago, so I don't have anything to do with Coca-Cola anymore. There was a question on climate change from the same individual. I think COP is still going on. I think it concludes tomorrow, so they haven't issued all the resolutions. But the caller was correct. The primary contributors to greenhouse gases are the Chinese, the Americans, the Indians, the Europeans. Liberia is a net contributor. We got 40% of the forest in West Africa in our country. And so because of that, we're actually helping the world. We're helping with greenhouse gases because of our rainforest. And we need to be compensated for that. I believe we get paid for some money today, but I don't know if it's enough. Something I need to find out. So I think as Liberians, of course, we are impacted by climate change. We got to do our share, but Liberians should know we are not the culprits here. The big economies that are the culprits here, and we actually, as a small country, we're contributing even more in terms of the positives than we perhaps are given credit for. So that was climate change, COP26. And on tax collections, yes, look, we got to get more effective, more efficient in collecting taxes. We can't be harassing people on the roads and on the streets for tax collection purposes.
But how do you do it when you have non-compliance?
So it's not a simple answer. First of all, Chris, we got to go to a national ID card system where, you know, all your tax payment, you want to get married, you want to get a passport, you want to vote, all of this should be tied to a national ID card system, right? So we know, Liberians know where you are, where you're employed, right? And then we can start to become more efficient in how we, you know, collect taxes and not harass people. We got to revisit the whole tax and regulatory environment to make sure it's effective, it's efficient, and we're not letting some people go and taxing other people, right? And that's something, again, not a simple answer. But to answer this question specifically, we shouldn't be harassing people on the streets for tax collection. There's got to be, and we can use technology as well to help us in the tax collection piece. There's a question about the framework agreement, and I'm glad the caller asked that question. And let me address this in several ways. First of all, let me emphatically say we did not alter the framework agreement. And let me say, you know, shame on my colleagues, and Liberian people should listen to this, that we certified the CPP with our framework agreement. They all celebrated the certification. We went to elections in December. We won seats based on our framework agreement. And it's been over a year before these so-called allegations came up. So where were they over the last year?
Maybe they have not seen it.
But they were at the meetings when the lawyers presented it to us. We signed the agreement. So, you know, kind of sort of shame on them, if you will, for where these allegations. But these allegations are untrue. and they owe me an apology for trying to malign me and cast aspersions at me. But this is the way forward, because this is about
They owe you
we are where
apology?
we are. Yes, for maligning my.
But your
my
colleague Joe
characteristic.
Barker said you should take responsibility.
He owes me an apology for making that statement, because Joe knows we did not alter any agreement. And when asked the question, what did we alter specifically? He has not answered that question. And then when you alter something, it should give you an advantage. You don't steal just to steal, you steal for food or for money. So what in the agreement that gave me an advantage over Joe, or over Benada, or over Youngly? What did I change that ANC or the Arizona Cummings has some advantage in the CPA? Nothing. But look, this is the way forward. We are where we are.
Yeah.
I am recommending that we get some independent Liberians from reputable people. Let them come and do the investigation. So not people from the ANC, not people from the UP. Let's get, and they're independent, they're credible
But a
Liberians.
reputable section of your membership, the lawyers did the investigation. So why are you calling for new investigation again?
But okay, well, this is what the lawyers said though. The lawyers said that they, and you should read it. I mean, you're a reporter.
Yeah.
You're a journalist, right?
Yeah.
The
I read
lawyers,
it. Yeah, go on.
the lawyers said that they took the agreement we gave them and they made changes to the agreement. They said that in the report. And they said they reviewed it with us. They said that in the report, right? So they said both, right? And yet, these allegations are still being made. So it's clear that my other colleagues don't accept the lawyers' findings. So that's why we should get some independent people now, so we can put this to bed once and for all, so the CPP can move forward, right? And I hope when Joe comes back, that's what we talk about.
But this
doing.
has distracted you guys.
It has.
And
It's the only
disappointment
the
of
only
your supporters.
The only person that has benefited from all of this stuff is the we are led government, because we've been focusing on this stuff and we haven't been calling them out for the inadequacies. We have been calling them out for the suffering of Liberian people. And so President Weah, is the only beneficiary of this, all of this squabble. And we need to put it behind us so the CPP can move forward. So I'm looking forward to Joe's return. And again, my recommendation is let's get some third-party independent people, let them come and review it and let them see exactly what happened there. Somebody asked about how I would grade this government. Again, I think the MCC is a good indication of their performance. This government has failed the Liberian people, and is manifested in the fact that our people are struggling, they are suffering. And I think the grade is clear, they have actually failed our people. There was a question about, and I understand Liberians are jaded because you get people in the opposition, they say all the right things, and then when they get to power, they do nothing, right? Or don't do anything different.
Yeah.
When I say to Liberians, you got to look at somebody's past behavior and past performance to predict future behavior and future performance. And so I'm happy to put my past record of performance up against anybody, and it should give you a good indication. If somebody was good in the past, chances are they'll be good in the future. If they manage large, complex organizations in the past, they will do in the future. And the other thing I want to say to Liberians is that it's not replacing one individual with another individual. This is about fixing the whole system. The system has not worked. Liberia is 174 years old. We are among the poorest countries in the world. So we gotta fix the system. We gotta replace the system. We gotta change many things. And I keep saying you can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. And we as individuals gotta do things differently, and as a country, we gotta do things differently if we want to change and fix our country. There was a question about young people. The call is right. 65% of Liberians are under 35. Many things we gotta do. Young people want jobs. And for them to get good, sustainable jobs, we got to provide them training, education, vocational training. One of the things we need to do, we need to start a national youth service program to start engaging our young people right away. And that's something that, Cummings, CPP-led government will invest in our young people, will create jobs, provide training for our young people, because again, everything we do got to be focused on.
Let's give a little bit of definition to what you term as national youth service program, like letting them to go out into the community to serve.
Yeah, so we'll create like a group to focus on education, a group to focus on healthcare, a group to focus on agriculture. We can create brigades. We'll give them stipends. We'll make sure we take care of all the logistics. So if you're a young person in Cape Mount, we might send you to Maryland. A young person from Lofa, we might send you to Sino to work in these different areas. We'll design a program so we can start engaging our young people right away. Other countries in West Africa, by the way, in Africa have national youth service programs. We can learn from them. We can adjust it to fit our needs, but we need to invest in the young people. And that's a relatively quick way to start to address some of the challenges faced by our young people. And those are some examples of what we'll do in that area. The other question was about, again, the economy and printing money. I think we covered that. We talked about that. But one of the other things we should be doing is, Chris, we should be, again, using technology, using mobile money, encouraging the use of debit cards and credit cards. So build confidence in the banking system so that we're not running around with all of these dollar bills. The world is using technology. The world is changing. We should encourage the use of mobile money, of credit cards or debit cards. So again, that's another way you can reduce the opportunity to steal by using technology. It can provide check and balances. And again, other countries on the continent, so not just the Western countries, are leveraging technology, are using mobile money, are using credit cards, debit cards, as some ways of minimizing the need to print all of this currency. A lot of the currency, is not in the banking system, and the government admits this. It is not this government's fault per se. The question is, what are they doing to restore confidence in the banking system, to introduce technology so that we can reduce, the amount of actual cash flowing around? And so those are some of the things we'll take a look at. And then there were other,
There's other calls were
complementary. And we thank people for the complimentary calls, but no need to
So
speak to that.
as we're getting close to the closure of this show, let me ask you this question: what's your position on this 5% ownership or equity in the Liberian oil that is so controversial? And the story is that 5% to each Liberian direct deposit, but overnight it's changed into 5.
Yeah, Chris, again, I'm glad you asked that one. This is where, again, this government is actually cheating the Liberian people. As you said, original law, I think it was 2014. And I'm trying to explain to our people so they understand that 5% equity will be given basically to the Liberian people, to a citizens fund. Maybe think about it as a susu. That money was supposed to be put in a susu for everybody to benefit, the entire country to benefit. That was the law that was passed. And they changed it quietly to say that 5% will go to individual Liberian businesses. So many to individuals, it could be groups of people, but they're taking it from this susu that everybody benefit from to giving it to a handful of businesses, individuals. That is wrong. That should not be. The resources of Liberia should benefit all of the Liberian people, not just a few. These are some of the things we need to change, Chris. That the resources of our country should benefit the Liberian people, and no one particular group, no one few people, and effectively, that's what this change. And we should also ask the question. And on this one, I don't have the answer yet, but I will develop an answer. Is 5% enough? Should that number be higher? I'm not saying it should be enough. People, I want to ask the question and I want to figure it out.
It seems
low.
low.
It seems low to me, and maybe it's okay. But we need to study. We need to ask the question: should it be 10%? Should it be 15, 20? I don't know. I'm not. But we need to ask that question. But for sure, it should benefit the entire country and not just a few people. That I'm very clear on, and the Liberian people should be very clear on that.
Okay, yes, Mike.
Yeah, maybe a final question from my side.
Yeah.
Mr. Cummings, should we continue to celebrate Thanksgiving with all of our shortcomings, especially we've just failed to benefit from the MCC's assistance?
Yeah, look, Magdalene, celebrating Thanksgiving is not just for what happens in the moment. We got to thank God individually for our good health, for being alive, for the country we have. With all the challenges, sometimes I think we're too hard on ourselves. We're too hard on us as Liberians. So there are many other things we should be thankful for in life. Small things, big things. And so I don't think that's something we should abandon, just reacting to the current situation. The current suffering in our country will pass. We are resilient people. We are tough people. And I believe over time we will get through this difficult period. We should believe in ourselves. And when, not if, when we replace President Weah, when we make him a one-time president, and we elect a good group of people, not just a person. Again, we gotta think about this more holistically. Liberian lives will improve, and we gotta have that faith. We gotta claim it as a country, as a people. We gotta thank God for all of our blessings, whatever they might be, big or small. And so, Magdalene, no, we should not celebrate Thanksgiving.
Okay, so Chief, take this question, please. This one, December, but next month, we're supposed to close a chapter in the CPP to have a ticket. Where are we, from your perspective, from the ANC perspective? Can we hit the jackpot at consensus, or there are signs on the wall that we have to go to primary?
I think signs are on the wall that we'll have to go to primary. And that's not a bad thing, you know. Competition is not a bad thing. Sometimes I think as a country, as a people, and this is one of the things I think we need to change, my fellow Liberians, is that compromise is not a bad thing, but sometimes we compromise at the lowest common denominator. And I said this in the studio before, that we need to push ourselves more, push each other in a positive way, not tear each other down, push each other, push the system, you know, and let's rather than compromising at a low level, let's compromise at a high level. And so I think we'll go to a primary. And as I said before, we've got to respect the outcome of the primary. If the former vice president wins the primary, we will support the outcome of the process. If I win the primary, I hope he will support me. But I think it's likely that's what will happen. The ANC.
But you always been conditional. You always said it should be, you were accepted. That means it was free and fair.
But it should be
free.
But it should be free and fair, though. And what I've also said that I'm not looking for a perfect process. There's no perfection in these processes, right? But if we closely follow within 70-80% what we agreed, free and fair, and then of course we got to accept the outcome of that process. But the ANC continues to be committed, you know, to the CPP. To answer your question, I think we'll go to a primary convention, and then we all should accept the outcome of that process.
Okay, so we can't wait to see that primary, and the 3 stages. Voter perception, which is not binding, and consensus, then primary. There are all indications, according to Mr. Cummings, that they are headed to primary, and let's wish the best candidate the good luck. Chief, thank you so much for coming to the end of this media interaction. This is exactly 1 hour since we started.
So if I may say a few closing words. First of all, let me thank you, Chris, Magdalene, for the opportunity to have this discussion. Let me just say to your listeners that, you know, we deserve a better Liberia. Where our country is today is not where it should be. But for us to get a better Liberia, we got to do many things differently. I remind Liberians that Liberia will not change because we talk it. Liberia will not change because we wish it. Liberia will change because we're prepared to do the work and make the sacrifices to change our country. I believe with the right leadership, we can encourage our people, we can inspire our people, we can work together to change our country so that every Liberian can benefit. I remind our people that we can't keep doing the same things and expect different results. That is true in our individual lives, and that's true in our national life. We got to do many things differently to improve our country. I remind our people that the suffering we're facing today affects all Liberians. This suffering doesn't care whether you're man or you're woman, whether you're Christian or you're Muslim, whether you're young or you're old, whether you're Gola, Gio, Loma, Grebo, Kran, Mano, Vi, it doesn't matter. We are all suffering. And by the way, we don't choose where we're born or our tribe. We don't choose when we're born, so we don't choose whether we're young and old. We don't choose our gender, whether we're man or woman. We don't choose what religion we're born into. We can change it, but we don't choose what we're born into. So those things should not divide us. Those things should not give us an advantage, one or the other, or a disadvantage, because it's not a choice. And this is why whatever we do for our country gotta benefit all of us, gotta benefit all Liberians. And so we need to unify, we need to reconcile, so we can move our country forward and do things differently. But we've gotta be prepared to do the work, to make the sacrifices, and not talk it. And I know we can do this. I believe in our country, I believe in our people. And if we work together, we make the sacrifice, we can change Liberia and everybody can benefit. So thank you again for the opportunity. Look forward to future interactions. And I'm sure I'll see you before Christmas, because I'm looking for my Christmas from you, Chris and Magdalene.
We're spending on the farm. Okay, thank you to Mr. Asif Atuba for cooperating with our office, State of the Nation, to have you on the maiden edition or the first time appearance on State of the Nation. And to Spoon, it is always said the age of Methuselah has nothing to do with the wisdom of Solomon. Very new in the industry, but has made a mark. Thank you so much. Greetings to your CEO and the folks at Spoon TV. And Real TV Sam and the folks behind the camera. Magdalene, thank you so much for handling the technical aspect of this presentation. My name is Christopher Koluba Siafaseli, and we're taking a sign off. Tomorrow is a special edition, 36 years down the line since November 12, 1985, abortive coup. Thank you so much for listening and watching.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, that's how we leave. My name is James Kuda. Bye-bye.